Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever, where today we are going to be looking at a 1v1 played on Badlands. Let's go ahead and get into introducing our players, but before we do, only about 30% of you are, subscribed. So, hit the red button, subscribe, please and thank you. Have a wonderful time hitting that button. Okay, whatever. Starting with introducing our northern player. He is blue, he is playing the best faction, and his name is Tomruler. He's gone first land. Then we're gonna go ahead and introduce our second player, a red seraphim, going first land by the name of AlexanderBerlin. And he is gonna be rocking those Seraphim pieces. Let's go ahead and make our way to the actual action that's gonna be going on by speeding up the game. It's Badlands, we all know and love it. About 9,000 reclaim, give or take, and it is a very balanced map. You have a lot of mass to grab, you can get high economy very quickly, and there's a lot of kinda avenues of attack. You have these two areas on the right and left, and then you have the middle, which is usually kind of a no man's land, but sometimes you see a big push through it and it works. There are engineers getting harassed by Selins. The engineer does go down to the Selin eventually, and we have another Selin over here blocking a mechs expansion out from Tomruler. That's going to be very annoying to deal with. Alexander having to deal with his mechs, Tomruler having to deal with his mechs being blocked. I believe you can attack move and the engineer will reclaim the Selin. I'm not sure 100% if that's a thing, but I think it is. And we have ourselves Alexander moving his comm out to the west to expand. Meanwhile, the comm of Tomruler staying in the base. And we have a couple of T1 bombers out. The T1 bomber out for Alexander is going to get one bomb off, and it's not going to kill anything. The bomber out for Tomruler might be more successful. I do not know if it was scouted by Alexander, but if it was, he needs to get an interceptor moving in this direction as fast as possible. We have a huge bomb seemingly going to be coming in right here. It's going to hit all of this. Is all of it going to die is the question. We have an engineer and maybe two engineers. I can't tell. But we had quite a few units die in that, and there's another engineer back here that I'm sure is about to be targeted down, so that might be pretty good. Nope, going for the mass extractor. Over in the middle, we have a mass extractor and engineer going down for Tomruler. Of course, this Thom-Selin combo putting out decent damage. Selin still blocking the mass extractor expansion over here. I wonder when he'll be able to go over and deal with that, or when he'll notice. It's kind of a hard thing to notice. You're just like, I could have sworn I queued that up. Yep, this engineer kind of just sitting here, needs to get reclaim onto that Selin at some point soon. There is a tank getting shot down. Selin does end up killing off the mechs there for Tomruler, but that's not too much of a loss. You can just rebuild it with the comm right there. It's right next to him, and everything will be good and dandy. Tomruler playing a little bit more aggressively. He already has units going to the further forward points, and as far as reclaim goes, he's about to start skyrocketing as he has a bunch of engineers over here at this mass field, about 1,000 mass, or 700 actually, right here. That's going to be able to be used to bolster his economy as he has engineers coming up to reclaim it. And over on this side, he's trying to get some tanks out of here to protect this mass patch, which also, yet again, about 700 to 800 mass. It's not insignificant. And we have a tank in the back line for Alexander. The Selin still causing issues. Needs to get some kind of radar up to be able to deal with that. He does have scouts, and I believe radar can see the Selin. I don't think you need Omni for it. But Tomruler is just going to ignore it. Over here on the western flank, it looks like there might be a bit of an engagement as Alexander continues to throw out some air units, and he has some land units over here trying to harass. There's definitely more units over here for Tomruler in general. Playing Aeon, of course, having that range advantage on the Aurora could be very significant. And we'll have to see exactly what he plans to do on that flank. Nobody building transports yet for the high ground. There's an air factory going to be built up over here for Alexander. Cliff building that, trying to get onto that island. Looks like there's a cliff build queued up as well for Tomruler. Tomruler, his comm kind of just chilling here in the middle. The comm of Alexander on his far western flank, just also chilling. These players not being too aggressive on each other. Let's go ahead and speed it up a little bit more, just so we can get to the point where these players are punching each other in the face. We have a couple of Zooies firing in to these units out from Tomruler. Not gonna be getting too much more damage as the units start moving. The Zooies racking up a few kills each, both onto one veterancy. And we have a lot of these tanks given orders to try and like get up on top of this, but not quite able to because they're tanks and they don't fly. A single thumb managing to get into the back line over here, going to start blapping away at mexes. He needs to get a tank over here to kind of start dealing with this. He has a band of tanks. He has an Aurora right next to it that could just start firing anytime. That mass extractor going down to the thumb though. The comm of Tomruler being used quite aggressively up here at the front. I don't think there's very many units over here to kind of deal with it. Not many units whatsoever out from Alexander. I believe he's having troubles with his economy. No, he's really not. Really just needs to start telling these factories to build units and commit to it. Or maybe get an upgrade on the comm or something. He's just not spending his resources quite as effectively as Tomruler seems to be. Tomruler fielding much larger numbers of units pretty much everywhere. A push out from Tomruler onto the position where Alexander's comm happens to be, and Alexander's comm going to mean that this push is going to be very unsuccessful. Tomruler needs to pull back. He is now starting to pull back with those Aeon Aurora going to be pushing him off of this position. Do we have any spicy tech upgrades? We do. We have a Tech 2 factory on the way for Alexander. Tomruler, I do not think is following. No, he has already gotten to Tech 2 and is producing those T2 engineers. And we, of course, have engineers over here. They're going to try and build a PD, but they are going down. A push now out from Alexander, but I don't think it's going to be super successful. Earlier, he was winning because he had his comm, but now these Aurora just versus the thumbs will be able to deal quite a bit of damage. The Aurora needing to be babysat, but once you do get the handle of how to micro these T1 units out of the Aeon, they are absolutely spectacular at what they do, and that is destroying other T1 units. Over here to the eastern side, we have more thumbs coming in for a run-by, going to be shutting down this expansion out from Tomruler. I don't think that's going to hurt his economy too terribly much. He is currently ahead economically in a power stall, though. Needs to kind of deal with that power issue at the moment, and he is building T2 pigeons just about as fast as he can. These thumbs going to continue to go through the back line. Most of these mexes in the back will be lost. This happens surprisingly often on Badlands. You just get a few units through and you get to kill off a few mexes, but the opposing player can generally clean it up whenever you're all the way around. They'll have something in position to kind of stop these units from raving through the lands, just burning all of these villages to the ground. And, yep, there's still some posturing going on from both sides over here. T2 just now finishing up onto the comm of Alexander. And Shinbro, every time I cast Tomruler, it seems to be against Shinbro. Sorry about that. And Tomruler over here is going to be doing his stuff. He has a Oblivion point defense over here on the front in the middle, which will gain him a little bit of control over this area. We do have Ilshivas starting to be produced at a decent rate now out from Alexander, and he's starting to build up more and more defenses. He's gotten up a tactical missile defense. I don't know if that's a reaction or just a fear at this moment. Both players grabbing one of the giant plateaus, but Tomruler just having a lot more presence on the map as of the moment. These thumbs getting extra value as they're just roving through the lands of Tomruler, and thumbs gonna finally be cleaned up, but not after taking out a whole slew of mass extractors, and now there's even more thumbs back here to continue being a raiding party. I believe Tomruler sees this, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. He just needs to send out his blazes to go do the job. Don't get too close with the blazes. They are paper thin, but they do have a decent amount of DPS and range. There is speed and range now on the way for AlexanderBerlin. Meanwhile, speed has finished up for Tomruler, and so has range, so Tomruler rocking the speed and range upgrades on that comm. Maybe we will see a spicy back upgrade, such as shield or my favorite, Chrono Boost. Or, not Chrono Boost, Chrono Dampener. I play too much StarCraft, shut up. Chrono Dampener. If he does get Chrono Dampener, that would be a very interesting move. A lot of units over here building up for Tomruler, and there are constant run-bys starting to happen for Alexander, but it's just not dealing the damage I think he wants it to. Tomruler about to start overflowing mass, though. Needs to find a way to spend it. Needs to get some kind of upgrade. Hell, at this point, yeah, just get Chrono Dampener. And Alexander now moving out with the T2 comm, going to be able to put some damage down onto this mostly T1 force out from Tomruler. Most of Tomruler's T2 units are now over on this eastern flank. We have some Ilshivas now pushing into the western flank for AlexanderBerlin. Going to be getting a bit of damage down onto this expansion. Yet again, Tomruler just kind of having trouble dealing with these peripheries. But he is starting to mount some pressure onto AlexanderBerlin, starting to get into a position where he could possibly deal a very, very damaging blow to his opponent. And Alexander doing quite well. He's holding on to his territory. He hasn't had very many run-bys happen. Looks like a run-by happened down here, or he just forgot about these mexes, which is entirely possible and not a very good look whatsoever. Ilshivas still fighting it out over here on this western flank. Going to be cleaned up eventually, but they do trade pretty well into Blazes and Aurora. The Bomber, of course, having that stun effect, the Shimmer Bomber for the Aeon, and is going to be able to sort of stop this Ilshiva from dealing much more damage. There's Ilshivas in the middle dying, and on the eastern side, there's a few units pushing up. If Tomruler reacts in time, all of these units are forfeit. He just needs to not let these units run right past his force, and he is now turning to deal with it. The Blaze is much faster than the opposing Zooey and Thom, so we'll be able to chase that down. It won't get any significant damage. May kill one Mex, but even then, that's nothing, considering he already has engineers in the area. Might kill the engineers, which is a little bit more than, you know, nothing. There are some more Blazes back here to kind of pick up where the original force left off, and are going to be able to shoot down those invading units out from Alexander. Alexander getting very defensive, starting to build up a lot of point defense, and yeah, just very much so investing a lot into static defense. We're going to have to see if that really works for him, because it's not very much so useful at the moment. None of these really getting any significant kills, if any. These two forward T1 PD are doing quite well. We also now have Obsidians gracing the field with their presence. The Obsidian, a very strong T2 unit, able to soak a lot of damage and deal a lot right back. AlexanderBerlin starting to be pushed off. He doesn't really have the unit count to deal with this. He's spending almost all of his mass onto static defense, it would seem. Actually, he's just kind of not spending his mass very well whatsoever. Tomruler, I believe, is still in a stall of some kind, or he's about to be in a stall. He uses Overcharge, which takes away a lot of his power for a second, but power is not a real issue. Tomruler pushing forward with the comm, still dealing decent damage to it. But now there's 3 PD firing onto the comm of Tomruler, and that's a lot of DPS. He needs to get out of this very quickly. He needs to avoid that line of PD. That line of PD might be a reason not to go Chrono, because, well, I mean, I guess it's not everywhere, but if that line keeps expanding all the way around, Chrono gets a lot less useful. It's only useful in a defensive engagement, which is still good. But we'll have to see if he gets another upgrade. Usually whenever I go Rambo with Aeon, I always like to take it all the way, because they have some very cheap and very effective upgrades. A ton of T1 bombers out from Tomruler. Gonna be going for this T2 Mex here in the back. Gonna be able to get it. Looks like the Berlin airlift with how much was just dropped right there. Now these bombers are gonna need to probably be given orders to just kind of fire on anything they find. Going for the T2 Mexes first. And the bomber is going to continue to just keep doing their bomber campaign. There's really not a lot of anti-air to deal with this. There's a few interceptors. There's now a flak out onto the field. Needs to micro that flak back to start dealing with these T1 bombers. They're starting to get a lot of value. It's a very expensive attack to form, but over here, I wasn't really paying attention. Alexander managing to get a huge force into the back line. Tomruler taking exceptional damage right now. He's starting to lose power generators, which is going to be horrible for his economy right now. He cannot afford to really lose those. If he loses the second one, he will be stalling quite hard. 500 power a second is very important to his economy at the moment. Over here in the south, it looks like there might be another push out from Tomruler. Just needs to avoid the point defense. That's all he needs to avoid. Do not attack into the point defense, and you should be pretty alright. It looks like he's going directly south, which is a good call out of him. The bombers managing to get a decent amount of damage, but not anything near critical damage. And over here in the back line, this is a lot of painful losses. He's losing a ton of economy. He was over 100 not too long ago, and now he's down to 93, and he's about to start losing more T2 mechs as these Zooies in the back line continue to roll through. Needs to re-expand to this area immediately, needs one of these factories to just start building engineers to get everything rebuilt. There's a large push now into the back line towards this T2 HQ out of Alexander. If that goes down, that's going to be a brutal loss for Alexander. Tomruler, his comm is pushed very far forward. He is in a kind of dicey position. These units starting to be cleared up by the T1 PD spam. Alexander might be able to hold here, but the question is, at what cost? What is he losing for this? But then again, I guess it could be the other way around. Tomruler is going to lose almost all of his units here as long as Alexander can stabilize and manage to hold this off. Tomruler in a very good position. There is a ton of firepower here. I would really focus on that T2 HQ. I think that's probably the best call. But instead, going to continue to move, try and stay out of the range of AlexanderBerlin's comm. Wow, that comm really missing that blaze. That blaze cheating death for a little bit right there. And another run-by attempt, but this time there's enough units out from Tomruler to kind of deal with it. There's still a lot of static defense laid out around this area, so it's going to be a bit harder to clean this all up. Tomruler starting to fall back with the comm, deciding it's not worth it to commit everything right here, right now. He's going to have trouble doing so, so he's going to fall back, kind of deal with any units that try and go aggressive on him right now. But this base is absolutely being torn apart by the units of Tomruler. And it just looks like Alexander's kind of floundering. He does not have very much to deal with this at the moment. And now there are more reinforcements coming in through the north side down towards this HQ. I'd probably just give them an attack move onto the HQ, just like try and force Alexander to deal with it or lose his tech. Losing your tech is always horrible. Overall on reclaim, 12,000 for Tomruler and 5,700 for our Alexander. And Alexander now starting to have power issues. He still has a decent mass economy, and Tomruler's mass economy has plummeted down to the 40s. That might also be because he's in a horrible power stall. Both these players doing significant damage to the opposing economy and need to stabilize to move on or just start dealing a killing blow onto your opponent. These Zooies still out here, still killing things. 3 vet on that Zooie, getting a whopping 3 health per second at 220 HP. And Tomruler in a very rough position. It looked like it was going really well, but he didn't do nearly as much damage as Alexander managed to do. And starting to look a little bit dicey for Tomruler here. Needs to start finding more damage done or just start stabilizing, get his economy back online as quick as possible. Going for building the T2 Pigeon, he needs to get that finish. He is still power stalling. Yeah, he needs that T2 Pigeon online as fast as possible, and he just now got the engineers building it again. But it's gonna be difficult. Even once he has that online, he may not have enough power to run everything. And there's still a fight going on between Tomruler and Alexander down here. Tomruler, of course, clearing up the front line quite a bit, getting some damage down onto the back line. There's not very many units being produced over here for Alexander. He's not doing super great at rebuilding his base. He should have been able to rebuild his base quite quickly with the fact that he didn't lose quite as much as Tomruler did. But Tomruler has a uphill mountain to climb as far as infrastructure goes. Looks like there's a ghetto gunship over here for Tomruler. Will it be able to get significant damage done? There is one T1AA over here, but other than that, there's very little to kind of stop this from dealing some form of damage. Looks like he's going to go for the back line, going to try and kill off the mechs back here, which could be successful. He just drops the labs, doesn't decide to ghetto gunship them around. I don't know if that's the right call or not, but it's the call he made. Overall economies, Alexander now over 100 mass a second. Meanwhile, Tomruler unable to regain that threshold he held on for quite a little while. And we have P-Gens going back online, more queued up, so he's going to be able to get a lot of P-Gens online, and now he just needs to start getting those mechs upgrades again and continue to have a force big enough to stop any kind of run-by. There's a large attack coming out from the middle and western flank now from Alexander. This needs to be dealt with. He needs to stop having the situation where units get into his backline. He needs to start really shoring up his defenses. At this point, it would be a very good investment to just throw a couple of PD along the opening on the west side and focus on the east, or vice versa. Or just build a giant wall across. It can be dealt with the wall, but it's definitely a delaying tactic, gives you time to react. And large push out from Tomruler, going to be getting damage down onto this easternmost expansion out from Alexander. It is going to be killing off all 4 mexes, which may help Tomruler get yet again into this game economically. Now he seems to have a mass generation lead. We'll have to keep an eye if he can manage to maintain that. And there is now Blazes in the front line. Gonna be able to use these to try and deal some damage, but Zooey is killing off the Blazes. Really needs to keep them mobile. The issue with Blazes, of course, they have very little vision range. They can kind of just be killed off if you do not have radar set up, and it looks like Tomruler has kind of overlooked radar. Really just doesn't have a radar built on the map, does he? Yeah, he doesn't have a single radar built. That is a huge oversight, but Chrono Dampener now on the way for Tomruler. As long as his economy is stable, he will have it in that 1 minute and 44 seconds. It looks like he's about to start mass stalling, though, so he'll have to either pause stuff or have the upgrade happen slower if he really, really wants it. Asylum shield generators, an entire wave of them coming out of the factories now. And in the middle, it looks like this was cleaned up on the western side, and in the middle, there's a wall now being built up by Tomruler. And there's some units here in the middle for Tomruler starting to get a bit aggressive, and it just seems like all of the units for Alexander kind of evaporated. He stopped producing Ilshevas and went to Yenzines. I'm not sure if that's the call. I think Ilshevas are just kind of better mass for mass, but I guess he might need more units on the field. I believe that Yenzines are slightly cheaper and build slightly faster. Yeah, they build about at half the time and cost about 2/3 the mass, so maybe that's what he's looking at with that. Yinzine's now going to be able to get into the backline yet again. Yinzine's and the other various units just able to get in the backlines, kind of able to just get poke in and get a lot of damage done for Alexander. Has had a lot of success with these raids, but now that Chrono Dampener is done, is that enough for Tomruler to start pushing forward? With the Asylum shield generators, he can push in, he can kill off PD quite easily, and you really need a lot of PD now. And Alexander is queuing up even more PD. He already has a lot across the map, but now he's queuing up even more. He has 8 and more building. Is Tomruler going to be able to push forward with Chrono or not? Yinzine's in the backline, going to be killing off all of these mexes on the backline again. T2 mexes at that. Tomruler cannot keep a hold of his flanks very well whatsoever, always having trouble dealing with these little run-bys. Another attempted run-by in the middle, gonna be stopped this time. And we have Zooey's coming around this far western flank. Gonna be stopped by a Obsidian, which is good, but there's already Yinzines in the back, and they can already do their tax of killing off quite a few stuff. But this Yinzine getting killed off, another one up here trying to kill off a T2 mass extractor. If these units show up in time, they could either save that mass extractor or at least save the ones that are going to be targeted afterwards. And now the Yinzine starting to fall back. As we reach a bit of a lull in the game, let's go ahead and speed it up a little bit, just so we can get to the action a bit quicker to the action. It looks like Tomruler is moving off of this eastern flank, going to move everything to the middle, might try and push down the middle yet again. This time with Chrono on the comm, it might be more useful. There's a large line to T1 PD, but that's a lot easier to deal with than T2 PD, actually, because you can just kind of use your T2 units to power through it. Let's go ahead and check on the comms this game. 49 kills and 3 vet for the comm of Tomruler. The comm of Alexander at 69 kills and 4 vet. So very, very active comms this game. We don't have any comms just kind of sitting on the base doing nothing. They're getting out there. They're getting damage done. T2 and gun speed and range for Alexander. And Tomruler sitting on Chrono Dampener and gun speed and range. Those are the 3 upgrades on that comm. And we have Obsidians being picked up by a transport. Gonna try and drop them, but that just did not, that was not fated to happen. T1 AA stopping him. And now we have a huge run by yet again on this eastern flank. It's going to be able to get into the back line once more. And Tomruler, yet again, going to have trouble dealing with it. But now Tomruler has a very large force here in the middle. He has his comm with that very powerful Chrono Dampener upgrade. I believe the best upgrade in the game. And he's going to be able to just kind of use that to deal a lot of damage. If he can get in here and deal a death blow, that is his chance. But right now, his flank is kind of evaporating before his eyes. There's a ton of transports dropping off what seems to be Zooies. And the units over here for Alexander being cleaned up quite efficiently, actually. And Tomruler needs to keep that comm moving. He should use the comm in the engagement, in my opinion. You got Chrono Dampener, you should use it. But is pushing in. He's managed to get to T3 land, and he is now pushing out some Harbingers. T3 land also achieved by Alexander. Air has been a non-factor in this game. Neither player has used air quite to full effect. Other than that giant bombing run out of Tomruler, there hasn't been very much airplay whatsoever. The thumb over here going to go down to the Harbingers and T2 spam. And is Tomruler going to be able to deal a death blow? If this tech goes down, I do not know if Alexander can recover from that, but even if it doesn't, this is starting to look a little bit scary. It's getting to the point where Alexander's comm is not going to be able to deal with this, and he just doesn't have the units to kind of come over and just say, hey, I'm going to survive regardless of what you say. We now have Obsidians firing into the HQ, and I think that HQ is going to go down. And since Alexander just walked his comm in, I think Alexander just dies here. Chrono Dampener about to start stunning up all of those reinforcements coming in on the back line. And Obsidians very strong. The death of a Seraphim is coming. Yeah, he dies. Alright, GG. Thank you for the game, Tomruler and Alexander. Thank you all for watching. You've been beautiful. Thank you to my patrons, Timothy Calderwood, Sergeant Syphilis, Icy Nightmare, Mutant Gene Pool, Idle Betazoid, and Sergeant Syphilis. You all have been beautiful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!